So I actually bothered to read some of the reviews on allmusic.com, and boy, oh boy, are they awful. Like, I actually gathered 10 of the worst reviews of new metal albums I've ever read. And I'm gonna read them in a sort of a comedic or over dramatic way, just for fun. Let's get right into it. Number 10 is Lifer's self-titled review, and it goes like this. At the time where acts such as Limp Bizkit and Korn seemed to be all the rage, major label record companies were quick to market similar acts. One such act was Lifer. Unfortunately, while they tried to throw their own take on the mix of the rapcore genre, Lifer's self-titled debut amounts to little more than another filler in music biz at major chain music stores and a quick single at airplay on the local hard rock radio station. Singer Nick Coyle has a good voice and shows himself capable of good harmonies, especially on such songs as Ugly, but this quickly dissipates in the aptly named song Boring. Lacking creativity and a spark that speaks beyond the marketing of The Man, Lifer is one album to steer clear of. Man, what do I even say about this? It's like, oh, this stuff is popular and there are acts that are doing popular things. Man, this is horrible. I can't imagine people actually want to do things that are popular. No way. This is probably another record that you're just gonna throw in the trash bin. This is just a filler. Man. All right, so at number 9, we have Year of the Spider by Cold, and the review is actually positive. It has 4 out of 5 stars, but when you actually sit down to read the review, it really comes off as pretentious. Here's how it goes. While no less a new metal authority than Fred Durst was their original benefactor, Jacksonville's Cold has always had a secret weapon in its heavy rock arsenal, Mouthpiece. Its mouthpiece, Scooter Ward, powerful singing, not shouting or rapping like so many of his contemporaries, that distance he and his mates from the pack. This doesn't mean they're better. Indeed, Cold's first 2 releases weren't consistently strong efforts. However, with the release of Year of the Spider, Cold has placed more emphasis on atmospherics, centered itself behind Ward's lyrics, and has even collaborated with Weezer. While these moves might alienate some metalheads out there, it's a great way of surviving the coming day of judgment, when the bell will toll for all but the best of the new metal moaners. Year of the Spider was produced by Howard Benson, who's best known for masterminding POD's triple platinum Satellite. Just as that group tempers its pummeling rhythms with passionate lyricism, so Benson has managed the aggro metal of Cold's initial releases into a better framework for Ward's gruff croon and deeply personal lyrics. Grappling with a family crisis, Ward pleads Bitterfly and openly in Cure for My Tragedy, A Letter for God. If you make the world a stage for me, then I hope that you can hear me scream, he sings. Don't take her smile away from me, she's broken and I'm far away. It's arresting to hear such defined honesty in a genre that, despite its reliance on depressing themes and personal rage, too often is malignant by its own acrimony. Wasted Years reaffirms this sentiment. An ambitious, acoustic-driven ballad, accentuated by a full-string section, the song builds with Ward harmonizing or specters of himself, repeating the song's desperate words until the final couplet. It's not hard to fail, it's not easy to win. While this sort of impassioned lyricism can easily become a cliche, it's a credit to Ward's talent as a singer that he sells it. Sure, he sounds too much like Maynard James Keenan and often seems like the emotional twin of Aaron Lewis. And in its new, more tuneful configuration, Cold can at times approximate the populist alt-rock of Bush. But none of this diminishes the fact that in the bombastic, one-dimensional world of nu metal, Cold's regeneration as a melodic, vocal-driven metal band helps it stand out, and it will likely keep it survive when the industry inevitably pushes away from the post-grunge table. Lord Cole wrote the standout single Stupid Girl with Weezer's Rivers Cuomo, and while nothing else on the record features as hooky a chorus, the appearance of Dulcehead vocalist Sierra Swan livens up the otherwise dour Suffocate. The move toward female vocal contributions in metal, illustrated best by the success of Evanescence, is an encouraging trend towards levity. Year of the Spider is still bruised with the cliches that burned so many releases in his genre, but the dreary purples, blues, and blacks have faded just enough to reveal a band that isn't as concentrated with anger. But the dreary purples, blues, and blacks have faded just enough to reveal a band that isn't as concerned with anger and volume as it is with emotion and melodic breadth. So the whole review is like, new metal sucks, new metal bands suck, but this is one good band because the man can sing. He's not rapping, he's not shouting, he's not angry, he's just sad, therefore he's better, but it's still a little bit cliched and it still kind of sucks, but I still like it anyway. Man. At number 8 is Grade 8 self-titled record. This is just a coincidence, I promise I didn't put it here just because, it's Grade 8 and on the number 8 spot. But anyways, it goes like this. Snarling vocals, chainsaw unison guitar and bass, thundering drums, all the essential elements erupt from each track of Grady's brutal debut. Relief from this assault is rare and momentary. For example, the guitar that opens Get It Out is not sadistically overdriven, though Dustin Tucker drops his low E string down to a D to make his arpeggios as ominous as possible. In any event, within seconds listeners are cranked back up to the max, with Ryan Tucker racing past his wrapped opening for another throat-ripping exhibition. There's no doubt that Grade 8 can pummel through a set of neo-metal material, and most likely tear it up on stage. The only question is why that may be all it takes to make it in a style whose rules are as rigid and forgiving as those of even the most conservative genres. Oh yeah, very conservative genre, so much so that Mudvayne and Crazy Town are in the exact same style. Right. I also love the implication, oh, this band is gonna make it just because they know how to do this style. But unfortunately, this album did not become a commercial success. So, yeah. Going up to number 7, we have Shadow Zone by Static X. I'd like to clarify that the original rating was 1.5 out of 5. So was the previous record Machine, but I'm sticking with this one because it's a bit more detailed compared to the Machine review, which is just barely there. So this review goes like this. Static X's Shadow Zone is a numbingly vacuous, no-dimensional dud that seems to have arrived via wormhole from 1998. In songs like Curio Idols, Destroy All, and Monster, Wayne Static, who's never sounded more like Korn's Jonathan Davis, yells nonsense like My head's a loaded gun and breathing, killing, seething, willing, or thundering, one-note trash boozed up with dated electronic fuzz. Producer Josh Abraham flattens the material to a harsh hiss, reducing the drumming to a vague click behind an impenetrable wall of guitars, and eventually it all just sounds like, yes, static. By mid-album, the Only's foray into stabbing westward-style electro-industrial provides depth simply by being derivative in a different way. Even here, Static's vocal resemblance to Davis is stunning. Reliance on formula has always been admissible in metal, but it's Static X's apparent refusal to try anything new or remotely original that makes Shadow Zone such a disappointment. Predictably, the album ends clumsily. So, an Invisible debuts some sort of double track effort on Static's voice, which makes him sound like Lane Staley instead of Davis, along with the intro transmission, which probably seemed a lot scarier in the studio. The two tracks are a final indicator of Static Kick's quickly advancing irrelevance. Shadow Zone's impossibly generic cover art only makes it more indistinguishable. Imagine thinking that Wayne Static sounds like Jonathan Davis. Like, you can't tell these two people apart. You have a fucking problem. I'm just saying right now. And then later on, oh, he sounds like Lane Staley because he has double track vocals. Freaking incredible, man. Just incredible. Oh, his sound is very electronic. That's why it sucks. Which can be pretty much the same thing that could be said for our number 6 spot, that one being Music for the Massive by Apartment 26. And the review goes like this. In 2000, Apartment 26 issued its debut LP, Hallucinating, an album heavily influenced by the gimmicky cross-pollination of industrial and metal favored by aggro-types like Orgy and Gravity Kills. A full 4 years later, Apartment returned on a new label with a new album and a fully rehabbed yet no less problematic sonic exterior. Chad Blake seems to have been one of the foremen on this reconstruction project. He handles most of the production and mixing, as well as few instrumental turns. The band's industrial foment is still intact, but it's been steamrolled into slick sheets of clicking, processed electronic mush. The result? White noise, bleeps, and smatterings of voices and synthesized instruments filling the gaps between music's enormous, guitar-heavy loud rock choruses and its meandering, go-nowhere verses. Blake and the mixer Chris Lord Alge have capably refitted Apartment 26's previous sound for 21st century markability. Unfortunately, the band itself has very little source material to bring to the table, which makes music resemble an enactment of formula instead of an album of songs. And then there's those odd, ham-fisted attempts to fuse jazz and swing elements to aggressive nu metal. Give Me More and Book Be My Friend are as gimmicky as anything on Hallucinating. They sound like filter covering Cherry Popping Daddy's Zoot Suit Riot. Stupid World's thick, buzzing guitar line is pretty catchy, but even here, insistent processing cleanses it to the point of utter blandness. 5-Day Rental is even more aimless, wandering between shimmering organs, guttural vocals, gargantual guitar tones, and the usual bed of electronics. It's possible all of this is supposed to sound like an updated Jane's Addiction, but there's just no real songwriting meat underneath all the rancid bluster, confusing records like Music for the Massive only further muddle a post-grunge nu metal movement already afflicted by the wheel-spinning doldrums. So combining genres is gimmicky. Ah yeah, of course, I forgot. This is allmusic.com. They think combining different styles of music is unoriginal and so uncreative. And of course, in this case, gimmicky. Well, you want to fuse jazz elements with nu metal on Give Me More? That's so gimmicky. Oh, your whole album is gimmicky. Oh, Orgy and Gravity Kills are also very gimmicky. You trying to sound something? That's bunch of gimmicks. Man, I'm such an intellectual. At number 5, we have Violence by Nothing Face, and this is actually a positive review, but like with the cold review, if you sit down to read it, you get some very obnoxious text. And it goes like this. Whenever a trend is hot, you can be certain that numerous clone artists will jump on the bandwagon instead of having the guts to do their own thing. Rap metal was extremely popular when the 21st century arrived, and not surprisingly, a lot of sound-alike bands tried to cash in by emulating Korn, Limp Bizkit, or Kid Rock. But thankfully, Nothing Face isn't one of them. The Washington, D.C. residents steer clear of rap metal on 2000's violence, which finds Nothing Face moving to TVT after recording for D-Side and Mayhem in the late 90s. There is no rapping on this CD, there are no guest appearances by Eminem, Old Dirty Bastard, Lil Kim, or DMX, and Nothing Face doesn't sample anyone's hip hop beats. Instead, the combo strives for freshness and originality, providing a compelling blend of melody and brute force. Violence is hardly the first alternative metal release that manages to be melodic and blistering at the same time, but Nothing Face does bring together a variety of influences in a fresh sounding way. On dark, angry tracks like Everlasting Godstopper and For All the Sin, Nothing Face successfully combines Pantera's sledgehammer brutality with the melodic grunge or post-grunge of Nirvana, the Stone Temple Pilots, and Bush. 1 minute, lead vocalist Matt Holt is growing like a death metaler, and the next minute, he is as accessible as Pearl Jam's Eddie Vedder. Much to the band's credit, all of these contracts seem perfectly logical on Violence, which is among the most memorable and interesting alternative metal releases of 2000. Like more than half of this review is, it's not rap metal, it doesn't have any hip hop elements, therefore it's good. Like again, all these fucking critics going around saying combining genres is unoriginal is just incredible. At number 4, we have Candy, Toy Guns, and Television by 20 Dead Flower Children. And this is basically a review without a review. And what I mean by that is that it's basically there. It's just a couple of sentences. I'll just read them. 20 Dead Flower Children's Candy, Toy Guns, and Television is a rather uninspired, hard-edged foray into industrial techno with vocals that swing from Limp Bizkit-flavored rhyming to hardcore roaring. This is an idiom that groups such as Linkin Park would subsequently navigate much more successfully and parlay into financial success. This album came out before Limp Bizkit and Linkin Park, by the way, so this review doesn't even make any sense. Like, I don't even need to say anything more. At number 3, we have something similar, which is Healing by Un Loco, and the review goes like this. There's no explanation for why anyone should listen to these neo-metal knuckleheads when there are already plenty of other rap metal macho men doing the same thing. Loco, like many of their contemporaries, bring nothing new to the genre. They trash and tear with no purpose, spouting now-tried cliches of their own misery. Join the club, dudes. Or, as it appears, they already have. I love how belittling and insulting this review is. Like, this fucker just goes on claiming, oh, you guys are a bunch of knuckleheads. You guys are nothing original. I expect every single CD to sound totally unique. Oh, man. Just, ugh. At number 2, we have Bleed the Sky by Reveille. And the review goes a bit like this. As the title of this disc suggests, Reveille builds up rap metal rapcore with a bad attitude. Lyricist vocalist Drew Similarides is perpetually pissed off, cursing out the world around him with spitfire, foul-mouthed diatribes that would cause Eminem to shudder. Despite the perpetual angst, which wears thin after the first few tracks, Bleed the Sky is all about loud guitars and permutations on pentatonic riffs that have kept hard rockers in ecstasy since Black Sabbath botched a few simple blues licks and changed the face of rock music. Guitarists Steve Milosevsky and Greg Sullivan steer the ship, often riffing in unison amidst layers of distortion. Through the Middle Eastern themes they weave into the title track offer a much-needed change of pace. Look at Me Now gives Carl Randolph a chance to shine above the fray with slapping bass grooves that allow for breathing room before Reveille's relentless brick wall of sounds kick back in. For those who seek melody, check out Down to None, which boasts a cheerful chord progression and a funky arrangement comprised solely of flute samples and drum loops. Bleed the Sky is an album that will please genre fans without fail. Like, this doesn't even read like a 2 out of 5 review. Like, the only thing that I see here is, oh, these guys are loud, and the vocalist is saying some no-no words. Man, this is awful. My virgin ears can't take this. Oh, by the way, I know this almost still please the genre fans, because I know all the ones that like new metal have no taste. They're not an intellectual like me. I know those underground original bands that you probably never heard of. My favorite band is Radiohead, and you probably never heard of them, but they're totally original, and me liking them makes me better than you. Finally get to number 1, and the number 1 spot goes to Headspace by Pulse Ultra. The review goes like this. Pulse Ultra hovers around 2 of rock radio's biggest trends circa the 2002 release of their debut. On one hand, the post-grunge sweepstakes entry obviously came back a winner, with vocalist Zoe sounding eerily like Bush singer Gavin Rossdale, especially on Big Brother and Build Your Cages, with several other tracks containing a melodramatic crunch not far from what Creed does. Yet at the same time, the Montreal-based outfit borrows heavily from the more avant-garde styles of Tool, Put It Off, and other moments are more firmly rap metal in nature. Void could be Incubus. While there's nothing wrong with drawing from many different sources, to be sure, the best music usually does, you can't help but think of one thing while listening to Headspace: contrived. Like, this definitely deserves a top spot. First of all, I'm not even sure if this fucker even listened to the CD. Rap metal, Void could be Incubus. Did we listen to the same band? Also, the whole review is just, this sounds like this sounds like that, and it just ends it with, this album sounds contrived. Like, how would you know? Like, are you inside their heads? Like, did you enter their minds and say, oh, we want to just make music that will make us big? This review deserves a top spot because this is everything wrong with professional music critics, especially back in the early 2000s. Seriously, fuck this goddamn website, fuck its critics. Go out of business, you fuckers. Bye.